I've been a long-haul trucker for over 15 years, and while you'd think I've seen it all by now, some things still manage to shake me to my core. This happened about 4 years ago on a desolate stretch of highway somewhere between Nevada and Arizona. The kind of road where you don't see another soul for miles and the only thing accompanying you is the moonlight and the sound of your own rig. I was hauling a load of steel making my way to Phoenix. It was around 2 a.m., and I hadn't seen another car or truck for hours. The only light was from my headlights and the soft glow of the dashboard. It's always eerie when you're out in the middle of nowhere, but I've grown used to it, until that night. About halfway through the stretch, my CB radio crackled to life. I hadn't heard anything on the CB for hours, so I jumped a little. "Breaker 1, 9, anyone out there?" a male voice asked. I grabbed the mic, feeling a little relieved. "Yeah, this is Steelman, what's up?" "Hey Steelman, you headed southbound?" "Affirmative. How about you?" I asked, wondering where this guy could be because I hadn't seen any lights in either direction. There was a pause, followed by a static-filled chuckle. "Oh, I've been behind you for miles. Just wanted to make sure you're doing okay." That's when the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I checked my side mirrors and rearview camera, but the highway behind me was completely empty. "I don't see you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, I'm there. I've been watching you." I didn't respond. I kept scanning my mirrors, but there was no one. My rig was the only thing for miles. The voice on the radio continued. "You should pull over. Take a break. I know a nice spot just ahead. Real quiet." My gut told me something was wrong. This wasn't another trucker looking out for a fellow driver. This was something else. I ignored him and pushed the accelerator, my truck rumbling louder as I sped up. A few minutes went by in silence, and I was starting to think maybe it was just some jerk trying to mess with me. But then the CB crackled again. "You're making a mistake, Steelman. I can see you. I'll be waiting." The voice cut out, leaving nothing but static. I drove for another hour, adrenaline pumping through me the whole way. When I finally reached a truck stop near the Arizona border, I pulled in and parked, double-checking my mirrors. Still no sign of anyone following me. I got out and headed inside, feeling safer around other people. I grabbed a coffee, sat at the counter, and told the waitress what had happened. She listened quietly, then gave me a knowing look. "You're not the first trucker to hear that voice out there," she said, leaning in closer. "Lots of drivers report strange things along that stretch. They say there's someone, or something, that stalks the highway at night, but no one ever sees it." I left the truck stop that morning and never used that stretch of highway again. Whoever or whatever was following me, I wasn't going to give them another chance. I've been driving rigs for almost 2 decades, and I've had my fair share of creepy encounters, but this one still gets to me. It was a few years ago when I was driving through Ohio on my way to Pennsylvania. I'd been on the road for about 14 hours straight, and exhaustion was starting to hit hard. So I decided to pull over at a rest stop just outside a small town. The rest stop was pretty run down. There were 2 other trucks parked there, but no one seemed to be around. I climbed into the sleeper cab, locked the doors, and set my alarm for a quick 2-hour nap. I remember falling asleep almost instantly. I woke up to the sound of someone tapping on my window. At first I thought I was dreaming, but then the tapping came again. It was light, almost hesitant but persistent. I sat up, heart pounding, and checked my phone. 3:12 a.m. I peered through the window, but all I could see was darkness. I flicked on the interior light and scanned the area, expecting to see someone from one of the other trucks. But no one was there. My truck was parked at the far end of the lot, close to the trees, and the rest stop building was a good 50 yards away. I turned off the light and sat in the dark, listening. The tapping stopped, replaced by a low, dragging sound like someone or something was circling my truck. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out of the cab, shining it into the night. Still nothing. I walked around the truck, checking the tires and looking for any signs of life, but everything seemed normal. I was just about to climb back into the cab when I heard a soft whisper. "Help me." It was so quiet I almost missed it. I turned in the direction of the trees where the voice had come from. "Who's there?" I called out. "Please, help me." I stood frozen, scanning the tree line with my flashlight, but there was no movement. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something wasn't right. I quickly got back in the truck, locked the doors, and revved the engine. I wasn't sticking around to find out what was hiding in those woods. As I pulled out of the rest stop, I glanced in my rearview mirror, and that's when I saw it. A figure standing at the edge of the trees, just watching me. It was too dark to make out any features, but the shape was unmistakable. Tall, thin, and just standing there, motionless. I didn't stop driving until I hit the state line. To this day, I don't know who or what was out there that night, but I've never pulled into another isolated rest stop since. This happened last winter when I was hauling a load of lumber through northern Minnesota. The snow had been coming down hard for hours, and I was already behind schedule. My dispatcher radioed in, asking if I could make a quick pickup at a logging camp just off the main highway. I wasn't too thrilled about detouring, but they promised it'd be quick. The camp was about 30 miles off the highway, and the road was barely visible through the snow. By the time I reached the camp, the sun had set and the place looked deserted. There were a few old trucks parked around, but no lights, no movement. Just a few cabins scattered around the trees. I honked the horn, hoping someone would come out, but nothing. I figured I'd give it a few minutes before heading back. The snow was getting heavier, and the idea of being stranded out here wasn't appealing. Then I saw him, a man, tall and hunched over, standing just at the edge of the camp near one of the cabins. He was wearing a long coat and a hat, but something about him didn't seem right. He wasn't moving, just staring at me. I rolled down the window. "Hey, you the one I'm supposed to pick up from?" I shouted. He didn't respond, just stood there motionless. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out of the truck, walking towards him. As I got closer, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. His face. It wasn't right. It was gaunt, almost skeletal, and his eyes, they were wide open, unblinking. I stopped dead in my tracks. The snow crunched under my boots, but the man didn't react. I slowly backed up, my heart racing. I wasn't sure what I was looking at, but it wasn't human. I turned and bolted back to the truck, slamming the door behind me. When I looked back through the windshield, he was gone, just vanished into the snow. I didn't wait around to find out more. I left that camp in the dust, heading straight back to the highway. When I radioed my dispatcher about what had happened, he seemed confused. "That camp's been shut down for years," he said. "There shouldn't have been anyone out there." To this day, I don't know who or what I saw, but I've learned one thing. Sometimes it's better not to ask questions.